Hello viewers, today let us see what is the concept of interpersonal relationship. In this module, you are going to see what is characteristics of an interpersonal relationship. Then we are also going to see the determinants of interpersonal attraction, and we will go on to understanding more deeper kind of relationships that are based on attraction, that is romantic relationships, and finally we are going to understand what is love, what are the components of love, and so on. To begin with, interpersonal attraction refers to the evaluations that we make about others, what we feel is good in others, what we feel is not so good or bad in others. So, the continuous evaluations that we make about the kind of attractiveness that the other person has, attractiveness in all ways for us to establish a relationship. And human beings, as all of you know, are social animals. And to say in psychological terms, all of us have a high need for affiliation. So, this need for affiliation makes us in fact a social animal. And the need for affiliation means that we actively look for association with other people around us, and we have this inherent need where we require some amount of love, encouragement and support from others. But although the need for affiliation is common to all individuals, but the strength of the need varies from individual to individual. You might have observed in the different kind of relationships that you have that some people have this need more, that is when they become very demanding of your attention and affection, and some people they seem to be having the need for affiliation to a lower extent than others. And for some people, this need for affiliation becomes a very important aspect of their life. So, for them, if suppose they are in a career, they feel that having good relationship with the colleagues and the boss is more important than their success in that kind of profession that they take up. But on the other hand, there might be some other people who feel that even if they have to hurt a colleague here, a colleague there, they do not mind because that is going to result in their professional advancement. So, this need for affiliation varies from individual to individual. Now, let us see the determinants of interpersonal attraction. There are two different kinds of determinants. One are internal determinants and the other one is the external determinants. Now, internal determinants like emotions, for example, they are going to have a lot of effect on the kind of attraction needs that we have. People especially who are in a happy state, if something happens to them, they want to share their happiness with others. And people who are in a happy emotional state, they actively seek many kind of social relationships, unlike people who are in a sad emotional state, where even if someone comes to speak with them, they do not want to listen to them. And these people, if they are in a bad emotional state, they try to even switch off their phones because they do not want to interact with anyone. But people in a happy mood, they try to take their phone and they try to even call up people that they did not recently call. And so, certainly these behaviors show that people in happy emotional state seek lot of relationships, and they actively engage themselves in satisfying social relationships. Other internal factors that determine our need for affiliation could be if suppose there are other people who try to make us feel good, then we actively pursue that kind of relationship. if what the other person says makes us feel happy, if what the other person says helps us to heighten our self-esteem about ourselves, and if suppose what others say about us is really helpful in our growth, then certainly one try to continue that relationship into a meaningful one. But on the other hand, if a person doesn't really appreciate what the other person is saying and in fact feel hurt because of what the other person has said, then such type of relationships they try to slowly stop. And so the internal assessments that the person makes, the cognitive frameworks that this person has, all these are going to affect the kind of relationships that they are going to pursue and the strength of the relationships. So, for example, if we talk in a particular way with one of our friends, the other person might like it, but in the same way if we talk with another person, that person may not like it. So, it is not in what we have said, but it is in the internal makeup of the other person. So, such subtle internal cognitive components have a long effect on the kind of relationship one engages in and also the strength of the relationship. Now, going on to other determinants of interpersonal attraction or how the interpersonal attraction happens. There are many factors that or many criteria that psychologists have observed by way of experimental studies. Now, I am going to discuss with you some of the research findings. Proximity is found to be one of the influential factors that determine interpersonal attraction. Proximity is the distance or the closeness in which the two persons who are in the relationship are placed. For example, if you try to list the friends that you have, you might notice that these friends are either belonging to your own apartment block or they belong to your own neighborhood, or these friends are your schoolmates or college mates. So, certainly because you are together for say a certain period of time, because of that you had established into a relationship. So, proximity is one of the important factors for establishing a relationship. So, for example, say when you are traveling in the school bus, probably the person who is sitting beside you is the one who later became your close friend and who later became your best friend, and with whom even today you are really having a successful relationship. So, there certainly if some other person had sat beside you, probably you do not know whether you can really find your best friend through other means. So, certainly proximity is one of the important factors that lead to the development of relationships. Going to the other factor, that is similarity. Now, suppose sometimes we choose our friends, in fact many times those friends whom we think are sharing common features with us, common attitudes, they are the ones whom we consider as close friends. So, similarity in ideas, similarity in attitudes, similarity in values, similarity probably in background, in culture, all these are important factors that will help in the progress of a relationship and help in the having a satisfying relationship. So, what about the saying that opposites attract? We have said that similarity results in relationship. What about opposites be attract? Yes, there are some relationships which are based on this opposites attract phrase, wherein if you closely observe such relationships, although the people there are holding different attitudes or different values, still we find that they lead a successful relationship. And if closely we observe, such relationships are mostly complementary, and the particular characteristics that they have are complementing each other. For example, there is one person who has a high demand for love and attention from others, and there is another person who has this need of giving lot of love and attention to others. So, both are different needs. So, the people are different, but still when they come together they match, because their particular traits are complementary to each other, and that is a situation when opposites attract and they have a successful relationship. The other important factor that researchers have identified is a physical attractiveness. So, certainly people who have a good physique, who are tall, who are thin, and who are having good complexion are the ones who are rated to be highly attractive. And for entering into interpersonal attraction, certainly the physical attractiveness counts a lot, at least in the initial stages. Research has found that people who are considered to be attractive are also considered to be highly sociable. They are also rated to be intelligent. Even if they are not intelligent, there is this tendency that people feel that those who are socially attractive are the ones who also have lot of social skills. So, this certainly makes it easier for that person, and because they are used to having a lot of attention and affection from others since their early years, these people naturally develop nice social skills where they have lot of successful relationships. So, these people might have spent lot of time leading successful relationships, which in turns make them enter into more meaningful relationships. So, when they are starting a new relationship, these people are certainly at an advantage because they have high self-worth or high self-esteem, and they also have this trust in their relationships. In this, let us see how relationships are formed. All the relationships go through a certain step-by-step process, and researchers have identified 3-step process for establishment of a relationship. The first step in forming of a relationship is becoming aware, and the second step is making contact, and the last step is disclosure. Now, becoming aware is the time when you try to observe that this person is there in your immediate environment. Probably while you are in the lift, you observe that a new person is there, and you may not directly go to that person and strike a conversation. In many cases that does not happen, nor do you go to that person straight away and try to engage in a very intense conversation. You might try to just become aware that there is a new stranger in your apartment or in your office, and after initially getting exposed to the other person, slowly you might one day, when only both of you are there in the lift, or when you met this person say in the nearby store, then you might try to make contact. That is when you try to introduce yourself and also share some basic details of each other, that is making contact. And this might happen 2 or 3 times in various places when you meet each other, and it is only after having this success at this stage, success at the making contact stage, then only you proceed into the third stage, that is the disclosure stage. If suppose in the making contact stage you find that you are not really having any similar ideas of that this person has, you may not be interested, Or if suppose that new colleague shares that the person is a say one who has Marxistic or terrorist kind of ideas or anything like that, any antisocial things, then you may not really want to enter into relationship with that person. Or the person says that the person is interested in football or interested in chess, which are certainly not your interests. You might really not feel interested in that person, and you will not go to the third step with that person, that is disclosure. Disclosure happens only when the first two stages you are happy with the relationship, and during this time of disclosure what you do is you try to share more details about yourself. You are willing to give information about secrets of your life, and the other person also readily gives important information about themselves. They are ready to share it with you. So, disclosure happens, people who are involved in this relationship are satisfied with each other, and both of them find that they are liking each other, and both of them feel that yes, both of them are sharing some common goals or common ideals. Then only they were willing to disclose more about themselves, and when this disclosure happens, certainly their relationship is on solid grounds, and we can foresee that they will have a successful relationship. So, these are the three stages of a relationship. But sometimes, mostly when these three stages happen, many times the relationship continues for a long time. But sometimes even if the first and second stage went on well, but during disclosure stage there is something that you find something is different from you, or something is wrong with the other person in your according to your judgment. When this disclosure happens, then also you can curtail that relationship, and then the relationship does not progress. Now, let us see what happens in close friendships. In close friendships, both the people or both the friends feel happy about the relationship. They do not mind sharing intense things with each other, and these close friends tend to spend lot of time together whenever the time permits, and they also engage in activities together. If suppose one friend wants to go somewhere, certainly they will call the other friend and both of them do that activity together, because being together is itself gives them lot of joy and enjoyment. So, close friends have kind of mutual needs, and there is a lot of sharing among close friends, and close friends also give emotional support to each other, and close friends try to do some sacrifices for the other, and they also speak of we rather than I. So, let us see some of the characteristic traits of a friend that psychologists have identified. In this slide, you can see that various characteristics are listed of a successful or a good friend. Psychology today lists the qualities of a friend. According to that research findings, friends keep confidence 89% of the time, and that is the highest characteristics trait, and loyalty is there 88% of the time, warmth and affection is there 82% of the time, supportiveness is 75% of the time, and you can see in this list that good conversational skills is only 59% of the time. Mostly we think that only if you are a good conversationalist you can become friends, but that is only in the case of 59%, but in fact keeping confidence, loyalty, warmth and affection are the ones that are rated much higher, and intelligence, as you can see in this slide, is only 58%. So, many of the people who do not enter into social relationships, they feel that they have to be intelligent, they have to be a good talker, which is not the case according to research findings. According to this social exchange theory, it tells us when we want to enter a relationship, what kind of cognitive work that we do when we decide to which kind of relationship that we should enter into and which kind of relationship that we should not enter into. According to this researchers, we do a sort of analysis which is called as cost benefit analysis. So, when we want to enter into a relationship, we mentally try to calculate the kind of cost that it is going to cost us and the kind of rewards that we are going to get out of that relationship. So, we might be assessing the intelligence component that is involved, the attractiveness that is involved, the warmth that we are going to receive. We will also look into the kind of social status when we are going to do this analysis. So, we can readily agree that many people do not want to befriend or enter into relationships with a person who is far below the social status. So, certainly some of these features people try to analyze before they want to enter into meaningful relationships. And if we find that the costs are much lesser than the benefits that we are going to get out of the relationship, naturally such relationships people tend to focus a lot on, because the cost is much lesser than the reward. But sometimes if we find that the cost that we are going to pay or have to pay in times of the amount of attention that we have to give, the amount of time we have to spend with that other person, the amount of money that is involved with the other person, the amount of work that is involved with the other person, all this if we find is much higher than what we are going to get or what we are getting out of the other relationship, then we are going to not enter that relationship or just cut that relationship if we have already entered into. Sometimes, however, there are some relationships, even if the costs are more, people continue to have that relationship even if the benefits are less. Certainly, such people are the ones who are more compassionate in nature and are working for higher ideals in their life. Or they might be someone like who are motherly in affection. In fact, our own parents, they are having successful relationship with us, even if the costs might sometimes be much more than the benefits that they are getting. So, not always the social exchange theory works, but in majority of the cases, yes, there is this kind of analysis that we do in our brains before we try to enter a relationship or before we try to continue the relationship. Now, let us see how to make one more attractive, because we find that attraction is an important component of establishing a successful relationship. How can we make ourselves more attractive? Not in the physical sense, but in all other ways. Now, developing social skills, because social skills can be learnt. If one tries to, if they feel that they are low in their social skills, they can actively try to learn some of the social skills, either by attending some workshops or by their own. So, upgradation of social skills is possible. It is not that they cannot learn these social skills, and it is not that some people are born with them and so it is not possible by others. Secondly, they can also try to do what is within their means, like having maintaining a good physique or maintaining a neat environment in their places, and also dressing properly as per the occasion, and trying to be in touch with the fashions around. They can also try to improve their social manners. Certainly, when you try to talk in a pleasing manner, now more people will be attracted towards you, and if you are try to help others, then certainly the attraction will be much higher than when you are more demanding and want others or expect others to do things for you. And other ways in which to improve attractiveness is by trying to improve the character, because a good character certainly attracts more people, because whether they have the right characteristics or not, when people are on the lookout for friends or with whom they want to enter into relationships, certainly they assess your character. So, if you try to correct characteristic traits or try to develop good characteristic traits, certainly you will become more attractive to the other person. And on the other hand, you should also be able to make a good assessment of the other person's needs. So, if you want to enter into a relationship, say because of some reason or the other with a particular person, now you should be able to assess the needs of that person. So, even before the other person asks you for doing something, if you try to meet their needs, then certainly a stage comes when the person, whether they like it or not, have to enter a relationship with you, because they become dependent on you, and they see that in spite of many things that you have which they may not like, but this ability to meet their needs, it certainly makes you more attractive, and they will continue with the relationship with you. Similarly, there are many other ways in which one can try to become more attractive. For example, in the office, if you try to learn all the latest information and also upgrade yourself on the skills and have good expertise and knowledge in the subject matter, then certainly people all around you, all your colleagues will try to seek you out and will try to establish a relationship with you. There is a lot of research that is done on what people will consider as love, and as you might agree, there are many different definitions of what is love. For one person, what is love may not be love for the other person. And among the many theories, one important theory stands out, that which is proposed by Sternberg. He has developed a triangular model of love, and he lists three important components of love. The first one is passion, intimacy, and commitment. In this figure of his triangular model, you can see that liking or intimacy, passion, and commitment are the three different angles of this triangle. And he lists what happens if combination of these three factors are there in the relationship, and he tries to list out all the combination of these factors. The first one is liking. Like he says, is when there is only intimacy and there is no commitment and passion. And infatuation, he says, happens in the love relationship when there is only passion, but there is no intimacy or commitment. And he calls it as empty love, when there is only commitment, but unfortunately there is no liking or passion in that relationship. He also lists other kinds of love, which, for example, the compassionate love. You can see here that the compassionate love consists of both intimacy as well as commitment. Of course, there is no passion here. On the other hand, romantic love has intimacy and passion, but there is no commitment. So, it means that this may not be lasting long, because there is no commitment. And factious love is passion plus commitment, but unfortunately for some reason intimacy hasn't developed. So, this also may not last long according to him. And the best kind of love relationship that a person can have according to Sternberg, and which all of us might readily agree, is consummate love, where all the components or important ingredients of love are present, that is intimacy, passion, and commitment. So, for a love relationship to be satisfying, fulfilling, and all the needs that we expect love has is met in the consummate love relationship. So, to summarize, today in this lesson we have seen what are the characteristics traits of interpersonal relationships, especially with reference to attraction. We have also seen the determinants of interpersonal relationship, which can be either internal or external determinants. And we have found out in the external determinants, situational factors have lot of effect. And we have also seen what kind of characteristic traits that friends have, and we have identified that not always successful friendship relies on good communicative skills. And finally, we have seen the components of love as proposed by Sternberg and learned that consummate love is the best kind of love, which involves both intimacy, commitment and passion. Thank you.